Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and today we're finally getting around to unboxing Dragonfire. Dragonfire is an exciting passage to adventure, a fast-paced, quick-starting fantasy game for 3 to 5 players ages 9 and up, and from the looks of the box, is a fantasy tabletop dungeon crawling adventure game that uses tiles to procedurally generate a dungeon adventure. This was made by Heartbreaker, who, if you look them up, you'll find has a lot of really nice miniature sculpts. On the back of the box, we have a sort of who's who cast of characters, artwork of each of the monsters, as well as the Dragon Knights, which represent the players. The Dragon Knights are the heroes of the realm. Only a proven few may don the armor of a Dragon Knight, swearing to protect the people of the land. These are the warriors called upon when trouble arises. We also see the orcs, the trolls, and the Dark Lords, sworn to the powers of darkness. Their true goal is the destruction of the land and the life that dwells upon it. With fire spells and magical swords, they weave their webs of evil. These are the creatures who the Dragon Knights must always be on guard against. Dragonfire is an adventure game for 1 game master and 2 to 4 players. This is agreeing with the 3 to 5 player on the front of the box. Rapid entry rules allow you to begin playing the game within just a few minutes. Miniatures are supplied unpainted. Use the illustrations as an inspiration if you wish to paint your own. And the contents, of course, we have 16 plastic miniatures with stands, 56 cards, 16 rooms and corridors, 14 markers, 6 doors with stands, 9 dice, plastic tracking markers, rules booklet, and an adventure booklet. This was made in 1992, published in the USA. I think with all of that information, we're ready to unbox this thing. So, let us begin. I do want to check out the underside of the lid, as always, and we get right into the box. We have our rules and adventures here. The rules really are quick entry. It is a very simple game. The adventure book, which only the game master is allowed to read this book, is chock full of adventures, but it is a pretty small book. So we actually have the maps that will be unveiled to the players as they open doors and explore new rooms. And this ends on adventure number 6, the final battle. The very end of the adventure book gives us the map symbols. We don't quite get a blank canvas. This would be serving as our blank canvas because this has all the symbols that we need for a sort of key to create our own dungeons and scenarios with this system. There is no need to have an overarching board template because there is no board. There is just these tiles. Now, I've unboxed this previously, of course, at home, and therefore the Ziploc baggie, as well as the rubber band keeping the cards together. This is actually the contents of the game in their entirety. There isn't a lot here. It is, as I've said, and as the box has admitted, a very simple game. We have the lovingly crafted cavern. I don't mind it so much here because it actually does give you all the room you need to have lots of room for your stuff and more if you so desire. But as this is secondhand, all of the tiles have been punched out. All of the miniatures have come off of whatever sprues they were on. And now we're going to take a look at all of the components that come with this. And to do that, we'll go ahead and utilize the lid of the previous board. Okay, so first of all these tiles, none of them are double-sided. They're all single-sided tiles. So what you see is what you get. We do get a pit trap, which this is a 3-tile pit trap, and I'm reminded that I really should be measuring these for your information. These tiles are going to be actually, they're close to the 16th of an inch convention used by the original HeroQuest. So this 3 tiles, rather than being 3 inches, is pretty close to 2 inches and actually 9/16, almost 5/8 of an inch for the pit tile. That's just giving us a rough standard of how big these tiles are. Not an exact fit at all with the HeroQuest board, the classic one, and certainly not a fit with the contemporary HeroQuest board, so these won't HeroQuest necessarily. You could probably put these down in bits and pieces on the board. The pit trap wouldn't be a problem at all, but over time, as you put more and more tiles down, you would see the tile drift begin to occur. So anyway, we have a room here, a 2x4 room. We have a corridor, and I love the corridor. This is pretty thick chipboard, pretty pretty thick cardstock. It's not going to bend or crease or anything like that. These are sturdy pieces. Whatever else I might have to say about the amount of resources that you get with this game, I'm not going to knock the quality. The quality is really, really nice for what these are. We have a lot of 3x3 rooms. We have a couple of 3x4 rooms, and we have a lot of these varied in size and design corridors, including one that has a 90-degree angle. That gives us a lot of different paths into a lot of different dungeons, lots of little configurations. We have some pit tiles. We actually have several of these. They almost look like they could be pointing upwards, like Legend of Zelda blocks that you push around the room. Maybe that's something you could homebrew. We have these sword and shield tiles that represent gear just laying on the floor. You can search for these. Then we have these tiles, which look like buttons, but these are actually pillars, a top-down view of pillars. 3x6, that's a pretty unusual tile size, and 3x7, another unusual tile size. Sadly, these are too small to use with Advanced HeroQuest or Warhammer Quest, so you won't really be doing a lot of homebrewing with these tiles in those games. We have a 6x4 or a 4x6 tile here as well. But like I said, the HeroQuest Miniatures Classic should just barely fit on those if you wanted to use additional enemies from the HeroQuest game system with this game system. And you'll need to do something to really prolong the life of this game. And here in just a moment, you'll see why. When the box says there are only 16 miniatures, it means it. And here's the problem. The back of the box showed us all of the monsters there are in this game without any exceptions. There are 4 Dragon Knights, and that takes up 4 of the 16 total miniatures. And these are our Dragon Knights. They are the representation of the player characters. They come in Slotta bases, which for copyright purposes, I'm sure they can't be called Slotta bases, but same concept. And even though it's the same sculpt, I do want to say, I do like the sculpts. I like the aesthetic. This is exaggerated proportions. This is heroic scale, and they are sturdy. It's a sturdy plastic. None of these miniatures, in fact, has any sort of signs of stress marks or breakage or anything. This game came to me in very good condition, and I think that the miniatures, the thickness of them and the way they were designed, they're going to last for a long, long time to come, especially in my careful care. Next, we have our orcs, and we have 1 color of each orc. All of these sculpts are the exact same, but the colors will help the dungeon master or the game's master differentiate who has attacked, who's moved where, who has what health left, and so on. So that's why we've got different colors of orc. Functionally, though, they are all the same. They all have the same stats. Their monster card, which I'll show you all the monster cards here shortly, are all identical no matter the orc. Next, we have the trolls. The trolls are really cool sculpts. I like them. They're not my favorite trolls. I've certainly seen other miniatures with trolls that I like better. I like the Games Workshop trolls. I actually really like the Dragon Strike troll as well. But these are not bad trolls by any stretch. They have lots of warts that they're covered in, huge mouths, long gangly arms, and they've just got enormous clubs with spikes in them. They have an imposing presence on the board, so I can appreciate that. And finally, we have the Dark Lords. The Dark Lords are the main enemies of the game, and while they all have the same stats, they all have different abilities. They're the only monsters in the game to have this differentiation between the colors. And I like these sculpts a lot. There's a lot of skulls actually in each of these sculpts. The skulls adorn their flowing robes, and they are wearing skulls. You can see from their faces that they're not just normal humans. They have some kind of affliction. Maybe they've been burned by Dragonfire. Perhaps they've just withered because of this dark magic. But I'll show you the differences in their stats here shortly. We have assemblage instructions, and actually there's no instruction that says these ever belonged to sprues. Nothing that says that they have to be separated from sprues, so I guess they never actually came on sprues. Okay, really quick and probably really weird complaint. The instructions here for assembly tell us to assemble the miniatures in step 1, but step 2 is to carefully cut the indicated game board sections as shown. Why is the onus on the owner to cut these game board sections apart? Why didn't they just come in either punch sheets or Otherwise, why didn't the company just include the tiles as they were supposed to be? I don't want to have to cut these. They already have these pre-cut corridors. Why didn't they just toss in more for us? Anyway, one more pit trap, and then we have a bunch of doors. And yes, these doors serve as your gateway to unlocking the board. They are one-sided images on these, again, sturdy pieces. And the bases are nice too. Actually, don't mind the bases. I really like the footprint of these doors. They don't take up a lot of room at all on the board, nor should they. Since this is a game for 3 to 5 players, doesn't really facilitate solo play, we'll have to do something about that in order to do solo play here on the channel, if we do. But we'll look at the dice next. The dice did not come in this container. This was a container that I acquired otherwise. We have not only the dice, which are used for combat, but a number of these little clips, and these clips will be used by placing them on the edges of your cards that represent the heroes and monsters, so that you always know kind of how many hit points they have left and so on. So you would just put the clip onto the edge. Kind of sketchy, in my opinion. I don't like doing stuff like this to my cards. I'm not even totally sure. It doesn't go on in an intuitive way. It doesn't like want to slide on all the way. So it just makes me kind of afraid that over time the clip is going to damage the card, or the clip itself is going to become damaged. So I would probably find another way to track these stats. But here are your hit points. This is Cedel. She's one of the 4 Dragon Knights, and I think they all have the same stats no matter who you are. Yeah, they're all the same. Wolf, Fierik, Helbrand, and Cedel. They all have the same stats. They all have the same stuff on their cards. She definitely has the prettiest graphic, but anyway, she's got 2 actions, 0 defense, and for attack, C, weapon. Now you have, of course, adjustable body points on this side, hit points, whatever you want to call them. And then on the left side, you have your rank, and all of the heroes start out as squires. And if your hero dies and you have to roll a new one, that hero is going to start as a squire. As you kill monsters, you will gain points and advance through the ranks, and this affects the type of dice that you roll when you attack and defend. We're going to look at these dice really quick, and these dice are pretty standard fare. You don't have a movement die. The movement is pretty well set in the game, but you do have 3 different dice with different configurations on them to allow for different chances of rolling a successful attack or defense. In this case, the black die has 4 white circles on it. The white die has 2 black circles, and then 1, 2, 3 engraved sections for circles. I guess these must be white circles. You just can't tell because it's a white die. And then 1 face with nothing at all. It's completely blank. And then the red die has 2 of these sort of non-colored circles, 3 white circles, and 1 blank face. Or at least my copy of the game has this wear on the paint on the die. So since we saw the character cards, we're going to move on to the monster cards next. This is the card for the orc, and it's green, so you can keep track of the body points of that orc, as opposed to the other orcs who may be active on the board. There's the blue orc card representing the blue miniature. All the orcs have 3 attack and no defense, and 2 of these hit points. The yellow orc card, then the red orc card. And then we have the troll series of cards. 3 attack, this time 1 defense. They get 2 actions just like the orc before them, and they have an extra hit point. So we do have some variation there between those 2 monsters. Unfortunately, that's where it all stops with the mobs. Now it's just up to the bosses. And these Dark Lords are all a bit different, but they're all substantially more powerful than the monsters before them. This one has 4 body points, 2 actions and 2 defense, and 3 attack. The Dark Lord paralyzes any Dragon Knight he wounds with his sword. The Dragon Knight loses his next turn. And not only that, but each Dark Lord has a different spell range and type, and this Dark Lord can actually create a 3x3 AoE spell in his line of sight. Next up, the blue Dark Lord. He's got 2 actions and 2 defense, just like the other Dark Lord before him, and 4 hit points, and an attack of 3. So all of the Dark Lords have the same attack, defense, and hit points, but the blue Dark Lord is equipped with a magic shield. It works in the same way as a small shield. And he also has the ability to create a 3x3 AoE. He can attack diagonally in a line of sight as well as horizontally line of sight with his magic. Very dangerous. The yellow Dark Lord has no special abilities, no flavor text, but can attack in a diagonal fashion, ranged. And that means the red Dark Lord, who's the same as the yellow in all aspects, attacks in a vertical range. I would imagine this also means horizontal, since there's nothing saying that, well, I don't know. You could probably interpret this. You could call this a bit ambiguous. Can they only fire north? Can they only fire orthogonally? That's the way that I'm interpreting it. I think that this means up, down, left, and right. They're just showing us one direction in the same way that this is just showing us one of the directions for diagonal. And then the AoE doesn't necessarily have to be exactly in this spot, this L shape from the character. I think it's anywhere. And then as soon as it hits in their line of sight anyway, then it creates the 3x3 range of effect field. So moving on, we have a lot of other cards to go through, and the most interesting of them all to me are the event cards. So we won't look at those just yet. The event cards are really cool though. We're going to look at the equipment cards next. The equipment cards tell you how much attack they allow the Dragon Knight to have. We have limited amounts of some of these cards, and we have about 4 of a lot of the more common items. So it looks like 1 for each Dragon Knight. There will be no writing down of equipment and returning cards to the deck here. Sword, 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 sword. Then Flail. This has an attack of 4. Two-handed sword with an attack of 4. It does not allow you to use a shield, and you may not use the two-handed sword if there's another Dragon Knight in an adjacent square. The double-bladed axe with an attack of 4, you may not use a shield. And Halberd, attack of 3, but you can attack from 1 square away and may not use a shield. Small shield, roll 1 die of the same color as your rank. A hit removes 1 of the hits of the monster. Same thing for this small shield. Then there is a large shield, roll 2 dice of the same color as your rank. Any hits remove the same number from the hits of the monster. And large shield, so 2 Dragon Knights can carry a small shield, 2 can carry a large shield. Of course, not everybody's going to be carrying all of the stuff at the same time, because some of the combinations are simply not allowed. The stronger weapons, for example, you can't use shields with them. Then there is the armor. Chainmail armor, you can only have 1 suit of armor at a time. If you find another, you must choose which one to keep. Lovely that they have that text there. That solves a lot of ambiguity in games like HeroQuest. Defense 1. Chainmail armor, defense 1. And then we come to 2 sets of advanced armor. This is plate armor. You can only have 1 suit of armor at a time. If you find another, you must choose which one to keep. Plate armor is quite heavy. You may only move 2 squares per action. And the defense is 2. And finally, dragon skin armor. You are invulnerable to the flames of the Dark Lords, and defense of 2. As far as actions go, the Dragon Knights have a choice of these actions. Move, the Dragon Knight is moved on the game board. Attack, the Dragon Knight attacks one of the monsters. Or search, the Dragon Knight is searching for hidden objects. In the first adventure, search is not used, so you don't need to learn those rules yet. That's kind of what they mean by fast entry. It's rules light, it's very, very rules light. But if you do want to use multiple actions per turn, but when you do any of this, you perform an action. Each Dragon Knight is normally able to perform 2 actions during each game turn. You may perform them in any order, and each player must finish his actions before any other player may begin. So an example, a Dragon Knight can move once and attack once, or he can move once and then move once more, or he can attack once and move once, or he can attack once and then attack once more. So you actually have any combination of things that you can do with your 2 actions. This is also true of search, which can be combined in the same way as the other 2 actions. Initially, the Dragon Knights can only move as there are no monsters to attack. Each miniature, both Dragon Knights and monsters, can move 3 steps for each action spent on movement. So that's where the heavy plate armor's negative effect comes into play. Whenever you use an action to move, you can only move 2 spaces if you're wearing heavy plate mail. This is a type of game where if you come to a square next to a monster, you have to stop. If you have another action, you can keep moving, but the moment you once more step into a square next to a monster, whether it's the same monster or another, you must stop again. So in that way, having the monsters present really limits your mobility. It's in your best interest to combat the monsters. And this is kind of reminiscent of Warhammer Quest, where you move into position to fight a monster. It's kind of implied that you're stuck there, locked in combat, pinned sometimes, as it were, and you can get away, but this usually allows the monster an opportunity to attack you. The monsters can move through each other, but they must stop if they move into a square next to a Dragon Knight. You can also move diagonally in this game, so that seems to be a staple of the build your own dungeon type games. Okay, we'll take a quick look at the magic item cards. And they're very simple. I really like the artwork. We have the Elixir of Speed. You get 2 extra actions anytime during your turn. This card may only be used once. Healing Herbs. Roll 3 dice of the same color as your rank. Hits remove the same number of wounds. Each use takes 1 action. The herbs can only be used once by each Dragon Knight during an adventure. Dragon Knights eating or dispensing the herbs may not be next to a monster at the same time. The Necklace of Light. Create a magic light surrounding yourself or anyone else in the same room or corridor by spending 1 action. No monster may attack the Dragon Knight surrounded by the light. The necklace can only be used once per game turn. The Sword of Chaos. This has an attack of 4. The sword has a will of its own. Use it at your own risk. No hit, the monster dies. 1 hit, you stumble and lose 1 game turn. 2 hits, the monster takes 2 wounds. 3 hits, the monster takes 1 wound. 4 hits, you miss. This is a really random kind of weapon. I think that this would be a pretty inspired weapon to put into HeroQuest, something that's really strong that actually does damage if you roll all black skulls, for example. But then if you do roll skulls, the result can be very varied. So this might be something to look out for and copy. Glove of the Giants. Attack +1. If you spend 1 action, you can smash down locked doors. Do not roll the die. Traps in the doors will be sprung if you haven't removed them. Yes, the doors can be locked and there can be traps in the doors. Ring of Precision. If you fail totally when attacking, no hits at all, you are allowed to re-roll all the dice for a second attempt. Love that. Actually love that as an item for HeroQuest as well. 7 League Boots. Your movement is increased to 4 squares per action. Very handy. I like that a lot. Magic item Crown of Wisdom. Roll 2 dice when you search instead of the usual 1. Alright, I want to take a look at the Adventures book a little bit more closely before we get into the event cards, because I think the context on how the event cards work will be a lot clearer once you understand how an adventure works. The overall campaign in this book is actually called The Treasure of the Ice Dragon, and it starts with Quest 1, which is the Portals of Power. And this is what you would read to the players. You have been told the legend of the treasure of the Ice Dragon by the old elf magician, Hippolectrion. That's a heck of a name. Hippolectrion. The treasure is said to be found under the Citadel of the Dark Lords. The first test to see if you are ready at all to enter the Citadel is to pass through the 3 portals of power, where the ancient hero, Sir Bernard, left clues and equipment which will help you on your way. Good luck, and beware of the jaws of the griffin. Do not challenge them until you have found the magic herbs. This has all the makings of a very classic dungeon crawl adventure, as far as story goes. So, we will start in this room, evidenced by the starting tile symbol. We have a door here, we have a corridor, and we have a second door, but there is a note. And the note reads, an inscription on the wall says, beyond stone and fire, you will find the tunnel of fear on the road to the Ice Dragon Lair. So we have a clue there, something for the players to hopefully remember. A bit more immersion here already, right off the bat. I like that a lot. Second door, and then we're in a room with an orc, a sword on the ground, sword tile, and then 3 more doors. The note on the bottommost door reads, Portal of Water, and beneath is a picture of a sea dragon. On the third door, there is a note, and it says Portal of Air, and beneath it is a picture of a Pegasus. And on the topmost door, which is marked 4, the note reads, Portal of Fire, and beneath is a picture of a griffin. If we go through door 2, which there's nothing stopping us from doing so, we have a corridor where there's another orc, and then another sword icon on the ground. We come back to the middle corridor, we enter a room with a troll, and then there is a magic item. This is Healing Herbs. Then we are able to challenge door 4, there's an empty corridor, and then in this room there is a troll with a note 6 by the door. 6 says the Tunnel of Fear. When the Dragon Knights have found the secret door and have opened it, they have finished the adventure. So these white doors are actually secret doors, right? Yes, secret without trap. Go on to Adventure 2, The Mines of Evil. I would imagine as soon as you pass through this door marked 6, you'd have to search for it first since it's a secret door. But that's left a little bit ambiguous. Now that we've read from the adventure book, let's look at these event cards. This is easily my favorite part about this game. Event 1, and they are all numbered, and they are here in order. There are 16 of them altogether. The Hungry Troll. If all the trolls are already in use, nothing happens. But suddenly you hear a terrible roar echo among the walls behind you. It does rather sound like a hungry troll. Take one of the trolls not in use in this adventure, or one that has been killed. Place it in any room or corridor the Dragon Knights have already explored. So that's an event that has the monster coming into play, a strong monster, not a pushover. 2. The Sunstone. If no trolls are on the board, nothing happens. One of you find a small, transparent, sun-yellow crystal glowing with a warm light. For some, it is deadly. One of the Dragon Knights, you decide for yourselves, finds a sunstone. Every troll in the same room or corridor is immediately turned to stone and is removed. The sunstone glows for this game turn only. Event number 3, the Portal of Time. You suddenly notice how everything seems to slow down around you, as if time stood still for a moment. The Dragon Knights stumble into a magic place where time runs differently. They all have 3 actions this game turn. No, not the monsters. So you can see how these events really give a lot of flavor to each of the adventures in this game system. Now, on more than one occasion, I have described Dragonfire as the QVC HeroQuest. Mom, we have HeroQuest at home, and indeed, it is a very simplified version of HeroQuest. It seems to tilt more towards roleplay and immersion than metagaming and rolling more dice. Now, I say that because that's how it presents itself at the outset. I would argue that HeroQuest absolutely does the same thing, but it does take and place an emphasis on combat. Well, if you're playing the US version, if you're playing the UK version, it probably feels a lot more like Dragonfire might feel to somebody who hasn't played HeroQuest before. More exploration, more getting to a point and then getting to the lore, rather than having to constantly fight. Now, there is some fighting in this, make no mistake, but as you can see from the adventure book, there are simply not going to be adventures where there are swarms of monsters. This is dungeon number 2, the Mines of Evil, and we have a total of 6 monsters in this entire dungeon. So the event cards are going to play a big role when playing this game. Now I want to read a few more before we end this video. The Fountain of Youth. If all of the Dragon Knights are unwounded, nothing happens. But you all hear a faint tinkling of water along the wall. When you taste the water, you immediately feel much stronger and healthier. The fresh water has healing powers. Each wounded Dragon Knight rolls 3 dice of the same color as the rank. Hits remove the same number of wounds. Move the clip up on the counter. I like that. And then we can look at the next to last one, just in case you didn't want to be spoiled on the very last event card. The Symbol of Weakness. When you pass a strangely shaped rune in the wall, it starts to shine with an evil yellowish glow. You begin to feel weaker as the power of the symbol takes hold. All Dragon Knight weapons do less damage this game turn. Roll 1 die less than normal for each attack. I would absolutely use these cards in a game of HeroQuest and just translate the terms over to HeroQuest appropriate terms. But that, in a nutshell, is Dragon Knight. Please let me know what you thought of this unboxing. Is this something that you would try to claim for yourselves? I got this copy off of eBay. I think it was less than 100. I want to say it was 60, which, I mean, to be honest, that's probably still a bit overpriced considering what all you get with this game. And I don't apologize for calling it the QVC version of HeroQuest. It does seem like something that was kind of thrown together with only a little bit of, hey, we can do that too. Let's see if this prints money. But as soon as you open the box and start getting the pieces on the board and playing the adventures, the writers for it had a vision. And I tell you what, the way that the items and the heroes and the monsters and the events all mesh together, it makes sense, and I really like it. So that is Dragonfire by Heartbreaker, an exciting passage to adventure. It does have a lower age rating than HeroQuest does by about 5 years, so perhaps this is something you can get your kids to experience first. Or if you are a kid watching this, perhaps you would enjoy Dragonfire. So just go grab the parent's credit card, go to ebay.com. What am I doing? That's it for this video, Brave Heroes. Thank you very much for watching. Comment anything you'd like down below, and I'll see you next time. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye for now.